So Quinn, you have written for Turtles, you have written for Disney, you've written Kung Fu Panda, some different properties that definitely had a storied history to some degree before you came in. You had something to be able to riff off of. What is the satisfaction level like with that? Coming in to work with something like you have always wanted to, like Turtles. That's a very big, okay, that feels really good to have done that, I'm sure. But how does that compare to getting these characters of your own out into the wild? Is it a different kind of sensation?
Well, it is. It's always cool when you get, because like I said, I love the Ninja Turtles. Always have hugely loved the Turtles. So it's cool when you can tell people like, hey, this script that I wrote is canon. Like they officially has the official stamp of approval. It's canon. That's cool, And that I was able to write a story that influenced characters that I really liked, So that's really cool. That's really, really cool. But of course, the trade-off is that when you're working on a property that's owned by somebody else, they call the shots, and I actually had when I was working on Kung Fu Panda, I remember we went back and forth on a couple of points, and because DreamWorks also had to approve everything that I wrote, and they'd give notes. And at one point, I had a line where there's a mayor of a village who's a pig, and he's being threatened by a bad guy who's a fox, and the fox says, "If you don't do what I say, I'm going to have pork chops tonight." And they came back and they're like, "So in the Kung Fu Panda universe, they're like, in the Kung Fu Panda universe, we don't really have the animals eat each other." And I was like,
good note.
And I was like, good to know. And fair point. Yeah. So we went back and changed it, and so there's just stuff like that where you're like, okay. But as far as like working on my own stuff, it's kind of fun because it's like, this is, with Elders of the Runestone, it's I always tell people, I'm like, it's got action, it's got horror, it's got martial arts, it's got, drama, it's got really strong characters, and basically it's everything I've ever wanted in a comic book. So for me, it's like, if I look at it as like a fan of my own stuff, which sounds weird, but I'm like, this is exactly everything I've ever wanted, and so it's really amazing. And then it's amazing just to finally be in a place where we can then share it with other people and let them have their own experience with it, and hopefully they get a lot out of it too.
Well, that's a really interesting point, that idea of getting notes and having to be, as an artist, I guess the comparable thing would be on model.
Oh, sure.
Of having to make sure that it meets a certain standard of what the characters have been defined to look like. And
any kind of licensed property, you just have to deal with that. Because you have the editors of the publisher that are licensing the property, and then you have the owners of the property who they ultimately answer to as well. So every page you draw has to get approved twice.
So for G.I. Joe, it would be IDW and then Hasbro.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So IDW is approving each page that gets turned in, and then that whole issue gets turned into Hasbro. So, which means you have to be even that much further ahead of schedule, because you have to allow for those approval times and any revisions that come